Hamza Ahmed is the fastest growing presence in the men's self-help space. Hundreds of thousands of people are influenced by his content daily. He is a self-proclaimed cult leader who on first glance comes across as a Class A egomaniac who is somehow brainwashing legions of young men into a culture of arrogance and selfishness. My friends, I am Xaviour Greenhalgh, of An Introvert's Guide to the Good Life. Today, we will be exploring why this guy, Hamza Ahmed, is my favourite person on the internet, how he's probably a threat to society at large, and the 3 biggest lessons I've gotten from over a year of his content. Now, one cannot begin a discussion concerning Hamza without first an explanation of Jeffrey and Adonis. His holistic self-development channel operates majoritively off the dynamic between these 2 fictional characters. Jeffrey is the embodiment of everything degenerate, a disgusting, nihilistic, cynical escapism addict with no hope and no drive. He defines a wasted life. Adonis, on the other hand, is the embodiment of everything a man should be. He is Hamza's definition of the Übermensch, Nietzsche's Superman. Literally the ideal male, someone so perfect that merely striving to be more like him constitutes a worthwhile life. And indeed, that is the self-professed goal of Hamza's channel, to take young men, particularly those similar to Jeffrey, and start them on a journey to becoming Adonis. Notably here, unlike every other YouTuber, Hamza actively recommends you cease watching his content once you've developed to a certain extent. And here, we begin to touch on why I love this guy so much. His main channel, simply titled Hamza, is, to be frank, disgustingly tailored towards those with pitiful attention spans and hedonistic motives. And I love it, because he knows his target audience. Hamza is not a man pandering to the existing self-development niche, but someone actively infiltrating other niches and drawing down bad young guys into his self-development system. His thumbnails, titles, and videos are intentionally designed to appeal to people who do not care about growth yet or challenge. Yet, hidden within said videos' addicting content are noble appeals to mental health, discipline, and virtue. As you watch more and become increasingly infatuated with the ideal of Adonis, you cannot help but be drawn into improving yourself. To supplement this, he runs a second channel, Hamza Unfiltered, with no editing at all. It's a series of long-form educationals targeted at people who've grown beyond his main channel's scope. What a beautiful duality, to be so dialed into the YouTube environment and human nature that you can sway the most disenfranchised by appealing to their hedonism, and yet remain so honorable that you do it unto their best interest. It is true and awesome power in the absence of visible corruption or misuse. And that is the crux of it, ladies and gentlemen. Even with all that in mind, he is not without fault. Though he does advise his viewers to cease ardently worshipping him, I see little to prove this actually happens. Being as skilled a manipulator as he is, and that is something I hold him in great esteem for, not disrespect, as manipulation is merely communication with intent. As skilled as he is, I cannot say if he is actually intending for those who grow beyond to leave his cult, or merely to worship him all the more for his virtue in saying so. The existence of his second channel, his terrifyingly active Discord, and the continual advocation he makes for his cult members to start YouTube channels of their own certainly indicates an expansion of influence that rivals religions of old. It is a fundamentally jaw-dropping possibility that in a few years' time, Adonicism may be counted amongst the likes of existentialism, stoicism, and Buddhism. We are talking about someone who went from 5,000 followers to 500,000 in 12 months. This degree of potential power will always warrant skepticism, and I refuse to understate its potential threat just because I like the guy. To be perfectly honest, I think I'd sooner embrace Endonicism than any other ideology I'm familiar with. And that is precisely what scares me. The depth of my own infatuation with the brand, with the mindset, with the lifestyle, and with the ideal. The success of his content reveals a terrifying void, not only in myself, but modern men in general. The need we have for a strong masculine role model, and the hunger we all have for purpose, belonging, and conviction. Regardless, my exposure to this man has changed my life drastically for the better. He has been a guide, a role model, and an inspiration, despite being only a few years older than me. So, allow me to share with you the 3 greatest principles he has taught me. This is a scary thing. For all my love of the greats, Hamza's influence over my conception of the good life is almost as impactful as Plato's. Firstly, expectation. This is what differentiates him from every other large self-dev YouTuber. He expects more from you than you dare expect of yourself. Where others coddle and reassure, Hamza demands you do better. Yet does so with a sense that he somehow genuinely cares about you and wants the best. This, coupled with the addictive power of his content, makes for a powerful drive to improve. The awesomeness here is that by continually blasting you with his own high expectations, he forces your own standards up. He teaches you that the only person who can decide what you will achieve is you. That the only true limits on your accomplishments in life are those you place on yourself. And for that, I will be forever grateful. Secondly, he redefined my perceptions of the pursuit of wealth. Namely, by brute forcing it into my head time and time again, he convinced me that social media is the true crucible of power in today's day and age. That the most wealth is to be most easily made producing content upon it. And that by utilizing that content to build an audience of people who like you, and then selling truly valuable things and services to that audience, you will dominate every other form of monetary growth in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and fulfillment. Thirdly, the crisis of modern masculinity. Now, if you are at all like my former self, you cringe at the very mention of masculinity in crisis. That preconditioned part of you already veering on feminist counterattacks. Just consider for a moment what it means that any mention of masculinity triggers a threat response in your perception of femininity. Let that sit with you. The issue with modern masculinity is precisely your response. Men are becoming far too feminine, women far too masculine. Consider that those energies came into a careful balance after countless millennium of evolution, and have just completely flipped in the last 100 years. That kind of volatile growth cannot be good for our mental and physical stability as a species. And indeed, that chaos is being obviously reflected in every day. Now, I do not advocate for inequality, of course not. I love women. What I am now knowledgeable of is the fact that treating men and women as if they want the exact same things out of life, as if they are biologically wired to want the same things, is the height of folly. More than ever, there is a necessity for men to reclaim masculinity, yet take with them an understanding of femininity, such that they can perfect their mental health, which has across time been the traditional downfall of hypermasculine men. Imagine the type of man you might become if you could reclaim such an old and powerful mindset, yet carry with you the perfect shield against depression, anxiety, overindulgence, and ignorance. Well, you might just approach Adonis. Think of Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great. Think of yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been Xaviour Greenhalgh of An Introvert's Guide to the Good Life. If you want to get in touch, find me on Instagram at YourLordandXaviour. If you want to check out Hamza's stuff, which I highly recommend you do, go to Hamza on YouTube or Hamza97X on Instagram. With that said, it's time to build a life you don't need to escape from. Send this to someone who needs to hear it.